Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
All right, all praise, all honor, all glory to the supreme intellect of the universe, of our forefathers, our supreme king. Thanking the Almighty for blessing us this day. Today's discussion is European Egyptology. And the reason why I'm addressing European Egyptology because a lot of us is mixing scientific or Scientology with Egyptology and calling it Egyptology when the two do not agree in itself. Some of the things I want to touch on are some of the questions that the Egyptologists asked the Hebrew Israelites. So the main purpose of why I'm debating, I'm not a person that would like to get into the form of debates, but the reason why I see many discussions on YouTube, I've seen other ones all across the board in different areas and different aspects where Hebrew Israelites are being attacked for their belief system, and some of the questions that are being asked upon them or talked to them about are not even accurate questions. So my job here is to defend the name of the Creator and defend the scriptures that we believe in, which has been canonized and called European, which has been called Western philosophy, and all these ideologies. So this is the main reason why I'm tackling this, because it's very imperative that we know as a people what they're talking about and what we are and what our understanding is. Because contrary to popular belief, Egyptians and Hebrews had a close relationship. But there's many that try to shoot down to Israel that have no existence. So this is the reason why I'm doing this debate, and I'll let you know off top, I'm not a Messianic Hebrew. I'm not a Hebrew that follows the Old Testament, but I am a defender of the name of the Creator, so I will be defending the scriptures in itself. I'm late on doing this topic because I've been researching Egyptology and Sumerian history for years, and my discussion came forward to my brothers and sisters, and I should have been addressed it and put it out on YouTube. But the reason why I'm doing it now is because it's imperative, because people are asking a lot of questions and they want to know. They're asking a lot of questions and information. Where did this come from? How did we get this? Or how did we get that? And this is the main reason why I'm tackling that. I had the privilege of seeing a debate, and you can look it up. It was called Polite versus the Hebrew Warrior. Polite versus the Hebrew Warrior. Also, it was called the Clash with the Hebrew Israelites. Now, when I seen it, me being a person who studies and very studious, I already knew who Polite was. So I already knew the science, I already knew what he was bringing forth. But when I looked up the battle with Hebrew Israelites, I seen Polite's face, and I knew that the Hebrew Israelites on that segment was in for a treat. Because I don't know if you know who Polite is. Polite is supposed to be the heir to Malachi's York throne. But Malachi's York is supposed to be one of the master teachers of Sumerian, Hebrew, and Egyptian science. So when I see the Israelites battling, I'm looking at people that are just disgruntled and really don't know what they're talking about. And this is why I touched this topic, is because we at Shomer HaTorah have a different understanding of biblical scriptures. We understand it from the historical perspective, but also we go into the deep science and the metaphysics that it deals with. So when I seen these Israelites attacking and addressing it, I understood that they didn't understand what they're really teaching. And not only did you have the brother Sadnetta who's doing the recording, he clips out where he wanted to clip out, and I seen him with the discussion with the debating the Moore brothers, and they debating these brothers or that brothers. Their whole ideology is to battle blacks. But we know in the future that if anybody's going to lead our brothers and sisters out of here, it's going to be someone who's not tearing apart the black community, but someone who's uplifting our brothers and sisters. So when I start out, I want to go into who are the Israelites. Now, some of the books I didn't bring because I've been dragging a whole bunch of things up here, but this is some of the books we're going to use. We got the Holy Scriptures. We got Hebrewism of West Africa, Babylon and Timbuktu, Wonderful Ethiopians of the Ancient Kushite Empire. The brother also brought us some books, Temple Tombs and Hieroglyphs. You got a book, Ancient Egypt, a beautiful book. Egyptian Book of the Dead. You got the New Penguin Atlas in Ancient History, Josephus, the Black Handbook, and Egypt in Late Antiquity. And it's imperative that we know our history, because the Bible has to fit somewhere. If it doesn't fit anywhere, then you don't have a discussion or a debate or an argument, because people do not agree with anything that does not have a historical foundation. So when we go to who are these people, who are these Israelites, we have to realize that the Israelites come from a place called Nippur. Nippur is an ancient city of Hebrews. Nippur in Sumerian text is called Ni'ibaru. Ni'ibaru, which means the land of the Hebrews or the land of the crossing. If you read in the genealogy of the scriptures, you have Adam, Seth, Enosh, Canaan, Mahalalel, Yared, Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, Noah, Shem, Mephibosheth, Seled, Eber. Eber is one of the forefathers, the ancient forefathers of Abraham. And we're going to get into Eber, right? But this place in Nippur was a global education system. Everybody would come to Nippur, which is in a city called Sumer. Sumer is your biblical Shinar. When you read in the plains where in Genesis 10 it talks about the lands of Shinar, this is this ancient city called Sumer. And in Nippur started to come up with calendars. They started looking at the sun circulation, they started looking at the circuit of the moon, how it rotates, and they started coming up with calendars. So later on, here comes a man called Tirhu. Tirhu is your biblical Terah. And in Sumerian text, and if you want to reference anything I'm saying, you can look up Zechariah Sitchin, The End of the Days, or the Cosmic Code. And this is a lot of material from this. Is where Malachi Zio get a lot of his understanding from. But in it, there is Tirhu, who is an oracle priest. Tirhu leaves the city of Nippur and establishes the third. In the Bible, it calls it a Chaldea, but in that time of Abraham, there is no Chaldea. The reason why it calls it Chaldea at that time, because Genesis is one of the later books written inside of the scriptures. And I'll get into that a little later. But at the time of modern scholars of 600 BC, it was Chaldea then. But the that Abraham is actually coming from is the of Sumer, which is the third under a king called Namu. Namu was a Hamitic person of African descent. And we're going to get into that too. But what happens is he brought along with him Shemitic tribes, and they established a science. Now this is the grandest time that Sumer had. And one of the greatest things that they produced besides science and math was they were into selling coats of many colors. And we'll get into that. That's how you see it later on in our scriptures. You also see it with Achan when he takes the Babylonian garment. It also was a coat of many color because this was very expensive. But it was something that we did traditionally. So from the third, Tirhu, which is Terah, let's don't get it messed up, he is sent to Haran. You see where it correlates in the scriptures? From then he went to Haran. Haran just means caravans. It was shipping and transporting. And the reason why he was sent there, he was sent there to establish another a little a mini And he did that, he moved to Haran because Haran had a lot of grassland. And he moved his flocks there. So then Tirhu has a son called Abraham, which Abraham is the father of the Israelites. So when we're talking about proof, you have to go to Sumerian text to understand some of Hebrew text. Now when we understand that, to say that Hebrew writings and doctrines came from Sumer, or is a copy or a replica of Sumer, that is kind of false because Israelites were part of the Sumerians. So in actuality, it's not that somebody stole or somebody took from an area or a civilization. It was because they were a part of the civilization. And the only thing that separated Abraham was Abraham wasn't into worshiping all the other deities. He was focused on the Creator. And I know my brother Asar back there, we in the Tree of Life class, the highest form of the Tree of Life is the one who creates all, and you avoid the other spheres, or you can tap into other spheres, but we tend to avoid it because of the positive and the negative influence to take us to another level. But we follow in the highest sphere, which is what the Creator represents. He represents the all-knowing. He is the creator of all. Now, Hebrews throughout the land later on were pushed into different captivities. They were taken into Babylon. When they were taken into Babylon, guess where the Israelites went back to? The city Nepal. You can look it up in all the Israelite captivities and look at them when they went back in Babylon. That's why when Israelites came back into the land, they didn't leave Nepal because they was already what? Feeling like they at home. They already felt at home. So when they went into Nepal, they stayed there. Many came back and built another temple. But when Israel was falling and the cities were collapsing, most Israelites were forced into Africa. And in this book, Hebrewism of West Africa, you'll see inside this book, which is a book by Joseph J. Williams, he shows you how all the Hebrews went into Africa and established their own kingdoms. So most African tribes that you know, you pick up a book and say Ashanti the Zulu. Ashanti is a Hebrew tribe. Ashan was the name of another name for Jerusalem. Ashanti, the Hebrew word, I am of Ashan, is what they call the districts of Jerusalem. So they went into there in Africa and established many tribes. Some of them you have heard of the Igbo tribe? They have a storied, rich and pure Hebrew background. You got the Yorubas, the Bantus. You heard of those? Yep. Kafir, the Limba tribe, the Accra tribe, the Akan tribe, the Gribos, the Manubas, the Bos, the Congos. I can go on and on. And even one of our famous stories of a queen named Queen Kahina. Queen Kahina, one of her statements is, Lions of Judah and soldiers of Africa, let's stand up and fight against the Arab opposition. This is when the Arabs, the Muslim Arabs, tried to force themselves into Africa. But the Jews, the European Jews, did not take the story because they couldn't explain how a woman is claiming that she's a Hebrew, but she was a person of color, so the Jews left the story alone. So that's why you see in many discussions and debate, was Kahina really a Jew or was she not? But the Jews won't touch it. They don't want to touch it. That's why this book is not called Judaism of West Africa. It's called Hebrewism of West Africa because the white people couldn't see themselves calling the black people Jews. So they just called them Hebrewism. But we know that our people were people of color, and we're going to touch on that. When you look at the Moorish expulsion, and you see our brothers, our Edentologist brothers, they jump on the Moors and say, oh, the Moors is this, the Moors is that, and they love the knowledge of the Moors, but the Moors practice the laws of Musa. Musa is who? Moses. And they took the science that came from ancient Kemet and ancient Sumer. Because they knew the science and they knew the history and they blended it together, but they won't tell you about that part. But when Ferdinand and Isabella cast out all the Moors from Europe after the Moors invaded Europe, they made sure that Christopher Colon signed a decree that he would have all the Jews out. And when I'm saying Jews, I'm talking about us, people of color. All the Jews out by Tisha B'Av, which is a Hebrew holy day or a fast day when it was the destruction of what? The temple. And then Christopher Colon signed off on the expulsion of 300,000 Hebrews out of Spain. Some of them went to Principe, some of them went to Capo Verde, some of them went to Sao Tome, others fled. Some of them fled to Jamaica, Hispaniola, and you see this all in this book. Why do you think that Jamaicans and Rastafaris claim that they're from the tribe of Judah? See, all the islanders know about their Hebrew Israelite heritage. Not only that, the Native Americans, if you get into the Native Americans, they know themselves as being descendants of a people from a man who parted the Red Sea, and their descendants and their ancestors fled when they were being persecuted. Okay, I got it right here. Okay, and also you see in this book that Babylon and Timbuktu, many places. You see it in many places.